To speak of us Flintstones is to enter a paradox where the primitive and the modern coexist in cheerful contradiction, and to approach it through the imagined legend of El Rey del Pastel de Piedra Moras is to taste that contradiction baked into comedy. The film recreates the prehistoric suburbia of Bedrock as a world of stone that behaves like plastic, where every rock hums with nostalgia, and every joke hides a fragment of critique. The notion of a pie made of piedra moras, impossible berries from a land of fossils, becomes the central metaphor for sweetness forced out of hardness, the eternal dream of comfort rising from struggle. In this vision, Fred Flintstone is both monarch and fool, the self-proclaimed king of a kingdom that never advances. Watching him chase success, beg glory, and eat it too is like watching humanity rehearse its own ambitions with clubs instead of briefcases. From its opening moments, the film establishes a rhythm that feels both ancient and strangely familiar. The quarry roars like a factory, its workers swinging Brontosaurus-powered cranes while singing about paydays that never come soon enough. The first appearance of Fred, wiping sweat and dust from his brow, feels almost biblical. A man carved from the same material he crushes. Yet the film immediately deflates grandeur with humor. His car, propelled by his own feet, sputters across the landscape like a satire of modern traffic. This balance of mock epic and everyday absurdity defines the entire narrative. El Rey del Pastel de Piedra Moras could easily be read as an allegory for the film's obsession with material triumph. For in Bedrock, every dream is literally heavy, every desire sculpted from stone. The domestic scenes provide the emotional foundation. Wilma, ever graceful within the constraints of prehistoric domesticity, orchestrates the family's life with quiet authority. The rockberry pie she bakes, dense, glittering with mineral sheen, serves as both dessert and dream. When she lifts it from the stone oven, a gentle plume of dust rising, the camera frames it as though it were a relic of faith. Fred, returning home exhausted and proud, sees in that pie not just food but validation, a symbol that his labor has produced sweetness. Yet even in this small ritual, the film hints at imbalance. The same hands that crush rock at work now reach greedily for what Wilma has created. The act of sharing becomes a test of generosity that Fred repeatedly fails until the final moments. One of the film's most telling sequences unfolds at the company picnic, where employees compete in absurd contests designed to mimic corporate ambition. The highlight is the Great Rockberry Pie Bake-Off, an event that transforms a humble dessert into a trophy. Fred enters with blind confidence, boasting that his pie will be the biggest in Bedrock history. The scene that follows borders on magical realism. The ingredients, a mixture of crushed berries, powdered granite, and a drop of dinosaur milk, form a dough that glows faintly as if imbued with geological memory. As Wilma stirs and Barney assists with comic devotion, the pie becomes a living metaphor for aspiration. When Fred triumphantly pulls it from the oven, the crust sparkles under the torchlight and he hoists it like a crown. For a fleeting instant, he is truly El Rey del Pastel de Piedra Moras. But the victory collapses, literally, when the pie caves in during the award ceremony, splattering Fred with purple dust. The laughter that erupts from the crowd encapsulates the film's moral texture. Success in Bedrock always disintegrates under its own weight. Yet the humiliation is not cruel. It is cathartic. The moment invites empathy rather than pity. In that splatter, Fred becomes human again, stripped of illusion, drenched in the humility that defines real kingship. The humor works because it feels like a shared accident, a communal recognition that no one, not even the loudest man in town, escapes gravity. What elevates the film beyond parody is its ability to fuse slapstick with genuine tenderness. After the fair, Wilma comforts Fred with a mixture of sarcasm and affection that reveals the film's emotional intelligence. She reminds him that being a king means feeding others before himself. That night, in a quiet kitchen illuminated by firelight, she slices the remaining corner of the ruined pie and offers it to him. He hesitates, then shares it with her. The scene lasts only a few seconds, yet it anchors the entire narrative. The comedy melts into intimacy. The prehistoric parody into timeless domestic truth. The craftsmanship of the film deserves attention. Every set feels tactile, every costume humorously overthought. The designers managed to construct a Stone Age that behaves like a modern suburb: bowling alleys, drive-ins, beauty salons, all rendered in rock and bone. Even the background noises. A parrot alarm clock, a turtle telephone, extend the film's satire on convenience culture. Within this world, the Rockberry Pie functions almost like a character, reappearing in various states of completion: half-baked, burnt, triumphantly displayed, and finally shared. It tracks the moral journey of the protagonist more effectively than any speech could. Fred's personality oscillates between endearing and exasperating. He wants to be admired, yet his heart remains simple. The corporate subplot, where he becomes entangled in a scheme to fire his friends after being promoted, shows how fragile morality becomes when temptation meets ignorance. The film handles this with surprising nuance. Instead of turning him into a villain, it allows him to learn through failure. When the truth emerges and he realizes the harm done to Barney, the camera lingers on his expression, not with mockery, but with almost Shakespearean melancholy. The laughter fades, replaced by silence. Fred's crown of crumbs disintegrates, and we finally see the man beneath the caveman, stubborn, insecure, and aching to be forgiven. In a later scene, Fred wanders through the quarry at dusk, stripped of his job and reputation. The visual composition evokes both desolation and grace. Shadows stretch across the stone fields like cracks in his self-image. A broken piece of pie crust clings to his shirt, the last remnant of his pride. When Barney appears, carrying a small basket with the remaining rockberries, the reconciliation that follows feels almost mythic. They decide to bake a smaller pie together, not to win a contest, but to share with their families. The simplicity of this resolution captures the essence of the title. The king is not the man who wins the largest crown, but the one who learns to share the smallest portion. On a personal level, the film resonates with anyone who has ever confused ambition with happiness. I remember watching it as a child, laughing at the dinosaurs turned into appliances. But as an adult, I recognize the allegory beneath the laughter. The constant reinvention of tools and conveniences mirrors our own age, where technology promises liberation, yet often deepens dependency. Bedrock's charm lies in its circularity. Nothing truly evolves. The wheel remains a novelty, the television a block of stone. This stasis, once comic, now feels prophetic. The Flintstones world freezes progress in amber, warning us that the illusion of advancement can fossilize joy. The dynamic between Wilma and Fred anchors this warning in human terms. She represents adaptability, the ability to transform limitation into art. Her creativity sustains the household, turning scarcity into comfort. He, meanwhile, embodies the eternal hunger for more. Their marriage becomes a dance of correction and forgiveness. In the climactic dinner after his redemption, the entire group, Fred, Wilma, Barney, Betty, Pebbles, and Bam, gather around the table. The new pie sits at the center, imperfectly shaped but radiating warmth. The children giggle as Fred pretends to knight Barney with a wooden spoon. The laughter feels earned, the sweetness real. It is the film's way of saying that progress begins not with invention, but with understanding. Technically, the direction embraces a cheerful exaggeration. The cinematography favors wide, bright frames that emphasize the artificiality of bedrock, as though the city were a stage set waiting for human folly. The music alternates between jazz-inflected cues and percussive stone rhythms, reinforcing the fusion of eras. This deliberate clash of styles keeps the audience aware of the satire while inviting emotional involvement. Even the sound design, birds squawking like alarm clocks, rocks clinking like coins, contributes to the theme of substitution, the way humans reshape the natural world into a reflection of their needs. What makes us Flintstones endure is its generosity. Unlike darker satires, it refuses cynicism. Every mistake leads back to community. Every humiliation turns into laughter shared. The film insists that life, even when carved from stone, can remain soft inside. The metaphor of the pie crystallizes this belief. Each layer, the rough crust, the tart filling, the sweet aftertaste, mirrors the structure of the story. Hard beginnings yield to bitter revelations and end in gentle reconciliation. It is culinary storytelling disguised as comedy. I often think about how the rockberry pie would taste if it were real. The imagination conjures something simultaneously gritty and sweet, like a dessert made from endurance. That paradox defines the film's emotional palette. We laugh because the world of bedrock exaggerates our own, but we feel because its characters love without irony. Fred's final declaration, raising his slice to the night sky, crumbs falling like stars, is both ridiculous and profound. In that gesture lies the eternal human impulse to celebrate survival, to toast failure as if it were triumph. El Rey del Pastel de Piedramoras becomes, in this reading, not a literal title, but a state of mind. It names the moment when a person, stripped of illusions, still dares to smile. Fred's journey from pride to humility mirrors the geological process that defines bedrock itself. Pressure turning chaos into form. By the end, his laughter carries new weight, softer yet deeper, like stone polished by years of touch. The camera's final pullback, revealing the family clustered around their flickering fire, while the city hums outside, closes the circle. Bedrock sleeps, unchanged, but its people have grown in small, invisible ways. The film lingers in memory because it transforms the ordinary into the mythic without losing humor. It suggests that beneath every civilization's surface lies the same story repeated in endless variations: work, desire, folly, forgiveness, and food shared at the end of the day. The prehistoric setting only amplifies the universality. Strip away the gadgets and the jokes, and what remains is a parable about finding sweetness in the weight of existence. When the credits roll, I always feel a strange mixture of nostalgia and gratitude. Us Flintstones may wear the costume of parody, but its heart beats with sincerity. It invites us to laugh at our absurdities while reminding us that love, friendship, and a well-baked pie are still the truest markers of civilization. In Fred's world, the rocks never stop falling, but neither does the laughter. Perhaps that is why the legend of El Rey del Pastel de Piedramoras endures. Because somewhere between the first bite and the last crumb, we recognize ourselves, foolish, hopeful, endlessly human.